Hey everybody, happy close to Halloween, I'd say. Hey, welcome to another video of Halloween, of a Raboot Halloween. So last video we talked about the first Venom movie, and because I kind of want to do Zombies 2 as my finale for the Halloween, for a Raboot Halloween, I am gonna be reviewing Venom 2. So Venom 2, who was made after the first film became a big box office hit, Sony decided to go ahead with the plans of a sequel, and also add in more Spider-Man villain movies like the upcoming Morbius movie starring Jared Leto, and a upcoming Kraven the Hunter spin-off movie. And instead of Ruben Fleischer taking the directing job for this movie, the directing for this movie went to Andy Serkis, who is a very famous actor and filmmaker, who even made his appearance in Marvel before, where he played Ulysses Claw in Black Panther. So Venom 2. What's the plot of Venom 2? Let's talk about that. Alright. So Venom 2 follows Eddie and Venom after the events of the first movie. They're living their life in San Francisco. And Eddie even got his interview with Cletus Cassidy, played by Woody Harrelson. And during the interview with Cletus starts to, but after one interview with Eddie, where Cletus bites Eddie on the hand, which leads into Venom attacking him and having Eddie be kicked out of his final interview with Cletus before he's sent to death, before his death sentence. And Cletus ends up getting a little bit of the symbiote from Venom, mixed with his blood. That ends up turning into Carnage, which the reveal for him is kind of cool in the movie, where the reveal of Cletus as Carnage in the movie is pretty cool, with him about to be sentenced to death by electrocution, by a lethal injection. But then Carnage shows up, and they pretty much have a whole massacre on the prison, and with guards and prisoners being dead everywhere. Also, Cletus decides to search for his love that he had back in the mental institution he was in, and with this person called Shriek, who I forgot the actor who played her in the movie, but anyways, Carnage. But now Eddie and after Venom decides to go off on his own a little later in the movie. It's now up to... But, of course, later on, Eddie would find Venom. But, of course, later on, Eddie finds Venom. And both of them team up and both of them work together at the end to stop Cletus and Shriek. But anyways, what are my thoughts on Venom 2? Well, if you remember from my review of the first Venom movie, I really like the first Venom movie. Yeah. And I'm kind of... And it turns out that from most people I've heard, they've actually really liked the second one a lot more than the first one. Which, in my opinion, I kind of agree with them. I think with this movie, it definitely has a lot more. It definitely does improve on some elements of the first movie. Like, for example, the villain in this movie is way better in this film than it is in the last movie. Riot just felt like a weak villain. Just felt like a typical villain that was pretty much a variant of the main character. And it's pretty much just a normal business tycoon type villain. But with Cletus, they actually do show a lot of... They do actually give us a lot of stuff with his character. And I think Woody Harrelson does a fantastic job. Riz Ahmed, I think his name is, did a pretty alright job in the first movie, but in this film I could definitely tell that Woody Harrelson was trying his best with that performance. Also, the actor who played Shriek was pretty good. And I like the dynamic between the two of having Cletus and Shriek be lovers reunited. But Shriek's whole power of supersonic screams affects with Cletus and Carnage. As explained in the first movie, sound is one of the things that affect the symbiotes. Sound is one of the things that affect the symbiotes in the first movie. Which I found that a pretty interesting dynamic in the movie. Yeah. But one thing I would say... But before getting into my major problem with the second Venom movie, let me get into more of the good stuff. One, I very like the action in this movie. The action in this film does get really good. And even though there is a part that I'll talk about later that wasn't really that great to me, they did the best they can with the action scenes in this movie were pretty well made. Also, I like the dynamic between Eddie and Venom. And I like how during the movie we get to see Venom control a lot more people. Like we get to see Venom taking over many different people's bodies. Like they even have Venom go into Mrs. Chen from the first movie. The person at that convenience store type place in the first film. They have Venom take the form. They have Venom go into her, and I do like how and I do very enjoy that scene, and how they portrayed it. And how they portrayed how Venom and Mrs. Chang looked. And I just like Venom. And speaking of Venom, Tom Hardy just does a fantastic job. Venom is just a... Tom Hardy does a great performance as Venom in the first movie, and he did a great performance in this one too. And I watched a video about how during the movie on set Tom Hardy would have a little earpiece in his ear that was pretty much recorded dialogue of Venom. So that he could have the feeling that they were somebody talking to, that he was pretty much talking to Venom, which I thought that was pretty clever. Also, I do like, even though they're not in the movie that much, even though, Dan isn't in the movie that much, he did a good job, but he was a pretty alright character in this one. And also, for the one that got the more screen time in this movie, Anne, she was pretty good as well. Michelle Williams does a good performance as Anne in this movie. And she does even have a part in the climax. And her and Dan even do come in at the climax of the movie. Which, speaking of the climax, is where the movie kind of falls. Is where the movie kind of has an issue right here. Yeah, kind of like the first Venom movie, the climax in this one is not that great. I do like the whole church setting that I do like the whole idea they start off with, of this being pretty much a church that they're fighting in, and with Cletus and Shriek getting married and having, and even, and they have like the police officer who shot Shriek in the eye there. And they even kidnap Anne to lure in Eddie and Venom, as sort of gifts for them. I like how the climax starts off, and the action in there was pretty good as well, but then we get to more later on in the battle, which, yeah, what happened? It just turns into the same problem I had with the first film, which is that the movie, definitely does, is that it feels like the movie doesn't really give me a thing that I could focus on in the climax that much. I guess I could say that the climax in this movie is better than the first one, because I do like the whole idea of the climax of the film, but I just don't know. It's a confusing thing. But I do find it funny how Venom pretty much just, I do find it funny how Venom just how they have this scene of Cletus being like, all I wanted was a friend. And all I wanted was you to be my friend. And then, while Eddie's being like, I'm sorry, Cletus, and then Venom just goes, screw this guy! That was a pretty good joke in the movie. With Venom pretty much, with Venom right there. But yeah, the movie also has an after credit scene, which there is a spoiler alert that I'd say, which, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie, I will warn you that this part of the video is gonna be a spoiler for the movie. It's gonna be a small little spoiler for the movie. So if you haven't seen the video, not the video, but if you haven't seen the movie, then then I'd say just don't listen to this part of the video. Oh, if you haven't seen the movie or you don't want to be spoiled about the movie. But if you have seen the movie or you just don't really care about what happens at the end credit scene of this movie, then you could stay for this part. But keep in mind, you have been warned. But at the end credit scene of this movie, Venom and Eddie are chilling out in this little beach house thing that they have, which for some reason, they do end up moving to this, they do end up going to this, tropical island at the end of the second movie, which, don't know where the crap that came from, but anyways, so they're sitting on the couch watching some TV, and the whole multiverse, and then there's a little glitch that happens, and then we get to see Tom Holland, Spider-Man, show up. And my goodness, I have not seen this much of fan reaction. I haven't seen this big of a fan excitement for a non-MCU Marvel movie since I don't really know. Maybe I'd say Logan, maybe. I haven't seen this much of a, well, not Logan, and because I don't really know what I'm trying to think of, but I haven't seen this much of this big of a fan reaction to a movie since to a movie's end credit scene, since maybe the end credit scene of Far From Home. So, yeah. But overall, Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, is a fun movie. Is a very fun movie with some entertaining elements. Is a very fun movie and with some entertaining parts that will have some audiences interested in what's going on. And it has great characters. And even though the climax is kind of mediocre, with some elements I like, some elements I don't like, it still has some great characters, great visual effects, a stellar end credit scene, and of course Tom Hardy as Venom, being a standout of the movie. Anyways, that's it for this video, and join me next time as we take a look at Zombies 2.